They laughed when Tom Hayes rolled into town that April morning in 1979. Not a polite chuckle, real gut-busting laughter, the kind that makes you feel small. On his trailer sat a beat-up 1963 Farmall 560, 16 years old, faded paint, worn tires, dented metal. It looked like something you'd find rusting in a barn, not something you'd actually buy. Tom had just paid $2,200 cash for it at a Webster County auction. His neighbor Jim Morrison pulled up in his pickup, took one look, and started howling. "Tom, what the hell is that?" "A Farmall 560. Just bought it." Jim walked around the trailer, shaking his head like he'd just witnessed a tragedy. "Tom, this thing's ancient. Why didn't you buy new? Everyone's getting the new John Deere 4040s. Beautiful machines. This looks like junk." Tom's answer was simple. "Can't afford new. The 4040 cost $68,000. I paid $2,200 for this. Does the same work." "What about breakdowns? Parts? Resale value?" "I can fix it myself. Parts are cheap. Don't care about resale. I'll run it 20 years. Jim laughed harder. "Tom, you're making a mistake. You gotta keep up. Modern equipment is more efficient. Pays for itself." Pays for itself with debt. I'm not borrowing $68,000 for a tractor. Everyone's borrowing. Interest rates are only 13%. That's cheap money. Tom looked Jim dead in the eye. 13% is robbery. I'm not paying that. By Monday morning, half the farmers in Wright County had heard the news. The coffee shop talk was brutal. Hayes must be going broke. Can't afford new equipment? That Farmall's embarrassing. Makes him look poor. Tom heard every word. He didn't care. He took the Farmall home and spent 2 weeks going through it completely. Changed all fluids, replaced worn hydraulic hoses, fixed a transmission leak, rebuilt the carburetor, adjusted the brakes, greased every fitting. Total cost, including purchase, $2,800. The Farmall ran perfectly. That spring, Tom plowed 320 acres, dissed, planted. The tractor handled everything without complaint. Sure, it didn't have a cab, no air conditioning, no radio, but it pulled the equipment and got the job done. Meanwhile, his neighbors were buying new. Jim Morrison bought his 4040 in May. $68,000 financed at 13, 5% over 7 years. Monthly payment, $1,962. 5 other farmers in the area bought new that year, all financed, all paying over $1,000 per month, all proud of their shiny new equipment. Tom just kept farming with his old Farmall, fixed things as they broke, spent maybe $400 in repairs that first year. Total cost, $3,200 for a fully functional tractor that handled 320 acres easily. The mockery continued through 79 and into 80. At every farmer gathering, someone would joke. "Hey, Tom, that Farmall still running? Or did it finally die? Tom's so cheap he bought a tractor older than his kids. I'd be embarrassed to drive that thing." Tom ignored it all. Just kept farming, kept saving money. His operation was modest. 320 acres owned free and clear, but with no equipment debt, his costs were low. He netted decent money even in average years. Then 1982 hit. Interest rates exploded. The prime rate hit 21%. Farm loans that had been at 13% got adjusted to 18%, 19%. Farmers with heavy debt got crushed. Then crop prices collapsed. Corn went from $40 a bushel in 1980 to $2, $30 in 83. Soybeans crashed from $7.20 to $5.40. Land values dropped, equipment values dropped, income dropped. But debt stayed the same, actually got worse as interest rates climbed. Jim Morrison's tractor payment had been $1,162 at 13, 5%. When his loan adjusted to 18, 5% in 82, the payment jumped to $1,388 monthly. Jim was farming 600 acres. His gross income dropped from $98,000 in 1980 to $62,000 in 83. After operating costs, he netted maybe $18,000. His tractor payment alone was $16,656 annually. Add his land mortgage and other debt, and Jim was underwater. He tried to refinance. The bank said no. Too risky. He tried to sell equipment. The market was flooded. Nobody buying. He fell behind on payments. In March 1984, the bank foreclosed. Jim lost everything. 600 acres. All equipment, including that beautiful 4040 he'd been so proud of. House gone. Jim's wife left him, took the kids. Jim moved to Des Moines, got a job at a warehouse making $19,000 a year. Broken. 4 of the other 5 farmers who'd bought new in '79 met similar fates. Foreclosed between '83 and '85, lost their farms, lost their equipment, lost their dreams. Only one of the 6 who bought new survived. And he only made it because he had off-farm income from a seed dealership that covered his payments when farm income collapsed. Tom Hayes? He was fine. His only debt was his land mortgage, which he'd been paying down aggressively. His equipment was paid for. That old Farmall 560 just kept running. When parts broke, Tom fixed them. When tires wore out, he bought used ones cheap at auctions. His operating costs were so low that even with collapsed crop prices, he still netted $12,000 in '83. Not great, but enough to pay his mortgage, cover living expenses, and save a little. While neighbors were losing farms, Tom was surviving, and people noticed. In July 1984, Tom attended a foreclosure auction. Jim Morrison's equipment was being sold. The 4040 that Jim had been so proud of, that beautiful new tractor he'd bought in '79 for $68,000, sold for $24,000. Less than 5 years old. Lost $44,000 in value. Tom watched the auction, saw equipment selling for pennies on the dollar, saw farmers' dreams being liquidated. He also saw opportunity. Prices were so low that good used equipment was cheaper than ever. Tom had been saving during the good years, had $48,000 in the bank. He bought a 1976 John Deere 4030 at auction for $18,000. 5 years old. Excellent condition. Needed minor work. The original owner had maintained it perfectly before losing the farm. Tom took it home, went through it completely, spent $1,200 on parts and maintenance. Now he had 2 excellent tractors, the '63 Farmall and the '76 4030. Total investment, $34,000. Both paid for, both reliable. Meanwhile, farmers who'd financed new were either foreclosed or hanging on by threads. By 1985, the mockery had stopped. Nobody was laughing at Tom's old equipment anymore. They were too busy trying to survive. Then something interesting happened. Farmers who'd survived started asking Tom questions. How did you make it through? What's your secret? Tom's answer was simple. No debt. I didn't borrow for equipment. When the crisis hit, I had no payments to make. My old equipment kept working. That's it. But everyone said you needed new equipment to be efficient. New equipment is more comfortable. A cab with air conditioning is nice, but it doesn't grow more corn. My old Farmall planted the same seeds as Jim's new 4040. The corn didn't know the difference. Farmers started thinking differently. Maybe new wasn't necessary. Maybe debt was dangerous. Maybe Tom had been right all along. In 1986, something remarkable happened. 3 farmers in Wright County specifically sought out old equipment, bought used tractors at auctions, paid cash, avoided debt. Dave Patterson had survived the crisis barely, owed money on newer equipment, sold it, bought a 1968 Farmall 960 for $3,200. Robert Chen was a young farmer just starting. Everyone told him to finance new equipment. He remembered what happened to Jim Morrison. Bought a 1970 International 1056 for $4,800 cash. Mike Williams had lost equipment to foreclosure in '84, restarted farming in '86, bought a 1964 Farmall 560, same model as Tom's, 1 year newer, for $12,600. All 3 specifically cited Tom Hayes as inspiration. Tom showed us you don't need new, you need reliable, and you need to own it, not owe on it. By 1987, the shift was obvious. Auctions were packed with farmers buying used equipment. The market for new equipment was dead. Dealers couldn't sell anything. The coffee shop talk changed completely. Did you see Tom Hayes's place? He's got equipment older than most farmers, but it all works. Tom was right. We should have listened. Tom became a minor legend. The farmer who'd been laughed at for buying old equipment but survived when everyone else failed. In 1989, Farm Journal magazine did a story on farmers who'd survived the crisis. Featured Tom prominently. The reporter asked, "When everyone was buying new in the late 70s, you bought used. They mocked you. How did you know you were right?" Tom's answer, "I didn't know I was right. I just knew I couldn't afford debt. $68,000 at 13% scared me. What if I couldn't make payments? I'd lose everything. Buying that old Farmall for $2,200 meant I owned it completely. Nobody could take it from me. That security was worth more than air conditioning and a comfortable cab." Do you regret not having nicer equipment? Sometimes on hot summer days, I wish I had air conditioning. But then I remember Jim Morrison. He had air conditioning. He also lost his farm. I kept mine. I'll take no air conditioning and ownership over comfort and foreclosure any day. The article got 38,000 responses. Farmers writing to say Tom inspired them. Financial advisors saying Tom's approach should be taught in schools. Young farmers asking for advice. Tom answered every letter. His message was consistent. Buy what you can afford, own it completely. Don't let anyone pressure you into debt. Old equipment works if you maintain it. Pride isn't worth bankruptcy. By 1990, the transformation was complete. In Wright County, 12 farmers were specifically running older equipment bought used with cash. All credited Tom's example. Dave Patterson rebuilt his operation. By 95, owned 400 acres debt-free. Ran equipment averaging 15 years old. All paid for. Net worth, $680,000. Robert Chen expanded carefully. By 2000, owned 800 acres. Equipment was all used, all paid for. Net worth, $1, $2 million. Mike Williams recovered from his foreclosure. By 2005, owned 360 acres, free and clear. Net worth, $740,000. All three said the same thing. Tom Hayes showed us the way. Buy used, pay cash, own everything. That's how you survive. The Farmall that started it all, the 63-560 Tom bought in '79 for $2,200, ran until 1998, 19 years. Tom eventually sold it to a collector for $4,800. The collector restored it. It won awards at farm shows. Tom used that Farmall for 19 years with total maintenance costs around $8,200. Purchase plus maintenance, $11,000 total investment over 19 years. Compare that to Jim Morrison's 4040, bought for $68,000. Financed at rates that eventually hit 5%. Total payments before foreclosure, approximately $94,000 over 4 years. Then lost it to the bank. Tom spent $11,000 over 19 years and owned it. Jim spent $94,000 over 4 years and lost it. The math was brutally clear. By 2010, Tom had retired, sold his farm to a young farmer for $940,000. Tom's total net worth at retirement, $3 million, built farming 320 acres over 41 years, never borrowed for equipment. Always bought used, always paid cash. Jim Morrison, still working that warehouse job in Des Moines in 2010, making $38,000 annually, living in an apartment, net worth $21,000. Lost his farm 26 years earlier, never recovered. The contrast was stark. Same starting point, same opportunities, different choices, completely different outcomes. Tom chose old equipment and ownership. Jim chose new equipment and debt. Tom retired a millionaire. Jim retired broke. In 2015, Tom gave a speech at Iowa State University's agricultural economics class. Students asked the obvious question: if you could go back to 1979, would you still buy that old Farmall? Tom smiled. Absolutely. Best decision of my farming career. That tractor cost $2,200 and saved my farm. Everyone laughed when I bought it. 2 years later, they copied me. Some survived because they learned the lesson. Others didn't and lost everything. I'd buy that Farmall again in a heartbeat. What about Jim Morrison and the others who lost farms? Do you feel bad? I feel terrible for them. Jim was a good man, worked hard, but he made a financial decision that looked smart at the time but proved catastrophic when conditions changed. I made a decision that looked dumb but proved smart. That's not about me being smarter. It's about me being more scared of debt than embarrassed by old equipment. What would you tell young farmers today? Don't let anyone pressure you into debt. Not dealers, not bankers, not neighbors. If you can't pay cash, don't buy it. Run old equipment if necessary. Look poor if that's what it takes. Just own everything and owe nothing. When crisis comes, and it always comes eventually, you'll survive. The farmers who look successful but carry debt won't. The students gave him a standing ovation. That speech was recorded, posted online, got 147,000 views. Comments ranged from, "This is my grandfather's story," to "Everyone needs to hear this," to "Tom Hayes saved farming for people who don't have family money." Tom died in 2018 at 84. His funeral was attended by over 300 farmers. Many specifically credited Tom's example with saving their operations. Dave Patterson spoke. Tom Hayes bought an old Farmall when everyone bought new. They laughed. He survived. They didn't. He showed us that debt is more dangerous than looking poor. I farm today because I followed Tom's example. The final speaker was Tom's son, James. He told a story most people hadn't heard. In 1992, Dad got an offer for the farm. A developer wanted to build housing, offered $18 million, more than twice what the farm was worth as farmland. Dad turned it down, said the farm wasn't for sale. The developer increased the offer to $2 million. Dad still refused. I asked him why. He said, "This farm kept us fed during the Depression, kept us working during World War II, kept us going during the 80s crisis. I'm not selling it to build houses. It's farmland. It should stay farmland." Dad wasn't sentimental. He was practical, but he believed some things mattered more than money. When he died, that farm was worth $1,940,000. He'd turned down $2 million. Some people think that was stupid. I think it was principled. Dad didn't farm for maximum profit. He farmed for a good life, and he had one. The church was silent. Then spontaneous applause. 2 minutes of standing ovation for a farmer who turned down millions to keep farming. That was Tom Hayes. The farmer who bought an old Farmall when everyone bought new, who got mocked, who survived, who inspired dozens of others, who retired wealthy, who turned down millions to keep farming, who proved that principle and discipline beat pride and debt. They laughed when he bought old equipment in 1979. By 1981, they stopped laughing. By 1986, they copied him. By 2018, they honored him. The lesson lives forever. Own everything. Owe nothing. Run old equipment. Ignore mockers. Survive. Thrive. Teach others. The old Farmall wasn't junk. It was wisdom, and wisdom outlasts every shiny new tractor ever built. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because Tom Hayes' lesson isn't just about farming, it's about life. Sometimes the thing everyone mocks is exactly what saves you.